beloveds. Today I'd like to share a story with you, and I hope it's a heart-touching story. If I speak about myself personally, please know it's with the intention of uplifting you on your own journey. Okay? So here we go. Part of my path is to have spent time with many meditation masters from throughout the globe. Okay? I've been in temples, I've been in churches, I've spent time with Buddhists, with Christians, with yogis, and on the Hindu path. I've been curious of various traditions. All right. So I got pretty good at being discerning of who I was going to spend time with, of knowing the teachers who are the real deal. In other words, when I say the real deal, I think a teacher who's authentic, who's sharing with humility, and who has a sense of pure intent about them. I have a tendency to really like those teachers. So I met a teacher called Radhana Swami who was on tour, and this was in Hawaii. And the first evening that I met him, I was just curious. I was going to see what he was about, and he had a full weekend of events, so was I going to spend more time with him? That first evening was a beautiful evening. And I remember he told his own journey of growing up in Chicago and then traveling across the globe on his journey of transformation. And I remember I was sobbing. It was so deeply heart-touching. So I thought, well, I'm going to spend the weekend at his events. And the second day I decided to take my son, and he was probably 5 or 6 at the time. So we go into the second day of events. It was an evening, and his talk was beautiful, and he did some beautiful chanting. And afterward, I thought, well, I'm going to take my son up to meet Radhana Swami. How many opportunities will my son have to meet this beautiful, beautiful person? So we walk up to see Radhana Swami. Of course, my son was a little bit shy, and Radhana Swami greeted him just beautifully, and then immediately turned to me and said, if all the mothers in the world were as beautiful as you, our world would be a beautiful place. Oh my goodness, that touched my heart so much, especially considering the background that I came from, especially considering narcissism, especially considering I had an eating disorder and I was very confused, especially considering emotional trauma and complex PTSD, especially considering all of these things. To have Radhana Swami be able to see the beauty that's conveyed from parent to child, the purity and beauty conveyed from parent to child, it was such a life-affirming moment. It was so sweet. And in this journey of complex PTSD, we're on the front line. If you're a parent, or even if you're not a parent, you're on the front line for collective consciousness. In other words, you're doing the hard work so the kids can be healthier and the grandkids can be healthier. You're doing the work at the front line, right? To create a healthier collective consciousness. And even if you don't have kids, you're helping society by letting your heart shine and going out into your world with a beautiful, open, pure heart. All right? So let's look at complex PTSD. Complex PTSD is actually an STD, meaning it's a societally transmitted disease. There's so much confusion in consciousness, in mass consciousness, in people. There's so much utter confusion that it gets conveyed on to the kids. It is a societally transmitted disease. It's not your fault. Right? For whatever reason, there are people around you that just didn't have the capacity to love. They were confused. Maybe some of them super demented confused, okay? But it's not your fault. This was installed through the generations, and guess what? It got to you, and now it's to you, and you're the one that's woken up in this societal fog and said, I'm going to take this on. I'm going to be at the front line. I'm going to get clear. I'm going to be the survivor. I'm not going to be in ignorance. I'm not going to pass this on to children, to nieces, to nephews, to pets, to other people, to colleagues, to, you get the idea? You're the one that's at the front line so that the other generations and those around you can be healthier. You're the one that said, this societal dysfunction, it's going to stop with me. Now, what makes you a survivor? Why do some people, perhaps you had a sibling that just bowled right through it, and you and your sibling have a completely different relationship to what went on in your family of origin. Why would that be? Well, let's look at that. If you're here, and if you're looking at complex PTSD in a very real, factual, forward-thinking way, I'll bet you're sensitive to your world. I'm not talking sensitive like that. I'm talking aware of your world. You're aware of others. You're compassionate. You're empathetic. What an evolved quality to be empathetic. That's an amazing quality to hold. And that quality is what will pull you out of this fog in many ways, right? To say, I'm the survivor. I'm going to be the one that's loving. I'm going to be the one that says, this stops here with me, and I will stand at the front line of this so that children and grandchildren and nieces and nephews and friends and society can be healthier. Good on you, right? You're a survivor. So in this societal dysfunction, you're the one that stood up with your staff and said, I will not be the victim. I will not be the victim. I will be the mother or father, right? Or uncle or auntie who helps create beauty in the next generation, helps create the beautiful world, who helps remove the dysfunction for our dear young ones in this world. However, whatever way you do that, maybe you volunteer with kids. You don't have to have kids to do this. Maybe you volunteer, right? So your path is a noble path, my dear. Your path is a noble path with your staff, right? And your shield. Eventually we put down the shield, but initially on this path you need your shield. Because empathy is beautiful. Empathy is a very refined quality that you hold. However, sometimes our empathy is not well placed, and that's why we will sometimes feel sorry for the person who abused us, or we'll go back to that person because we're so empathetic that we believe that maybe this time it will be different. Maybe this time they'll see it, right? And then we'll also have a tendency to eat in ourselves, to be the harsh inner critic will come up. Sometimes your empathy is not well placed, and that's such a hard lesson to learn, all right? Value your empathy, value your sensitivity, value that quality that gave you the staff so that you could be at the front line and do this work and reclaim all that you are, which is the field of unconditional love. That's what it is. And that's what Radha Swami was saying. Basically, he was saying, you are offering the field of unconditional love to your child. If we do this collectively, our world will be a much more beautiful place. Now, I consider that comment that he made for all parents, for all uncles and aunties, right? So what I did, in fact, just yesterday, I was at a beautiful little cafe, and there was a mother next to me, and she had an 8-month-old and she had a 4-year-old. And their presence was so lovely as they sat down next to me. It was just sweet. It was just content. Those children were so content with their mother. And the little girl, I noticed, the 4-year-old, was gazing at me. So I turned to speak with her, and I just felt their presence. It wasn't a mind thing that was going on. I just felt the beauty of mother with child, with children, right? And it could easily be father as well, but yesterday happened to be a mother. So I thought, I'm going to share with her what Radhana Swami said to me. And I looked at her and I said, I want you to know that if all the mothers in the world were as beautiful as you are, our world would be a much more beautiful place. So I paid it forward, in other words. And I encourage you to do the same thing, right? Take in the health of your children. Now, remember, our children also have a unique path. So if your child or children are facing challenges, don't worry, don't take it personally. We each have our unique path. But trust in that underlying thread of love that you gave them. Trust in that, because you did the frontline work. You did that hard work of complex PTSD. And much of it was probably done also. It may be done while you're raising a child now, or, it could be done after your children are grown. But in any case, this work is valuable work. And even if your children are grown and you're doing this work now, they're going to feel and sense the difference in you. They're going to feel that you're coming to this place of homeostasis, of unconditional love. They're going to sense that you're clearing out the dust, you're clearing out the confusion to bring clarity to yourself and to allow that clarity to shine through to others, so there's less cultural collective confusion in our world. And then you get to model healthy relationship for others. Healthy relationship with yourself, healthy relationship with your friends, healthy relationship with your children, where you see your children, your nieces, your nephews, your grandchildren, you see them as souls on this journey rather than little ones to have dominion over. You see them as a unique soul on the journey, and you're sharing a soul journey with them. So as we waken up from this societally transmitted disease that's not your fault, as we waken up, as we do the battle on the front line, know that it's a worthy battle. It's going to have a great payoff, not only for you personally, but the clearer you get, the more that will shine out. And it's a journey that has a positive cumulative effect. Once you're awake, right? It's your empathy. Remember, it's your empathy, your intuitive nature, your loving nature that kept you awake, that said, yes, I will do this journey. I will see through this fog. Once you're awake on that path with that positive cumulative effect, at last we get to breathe. And there's a settling, a return to balance, a return to homeostasis through A, awareness, B, educating yourself, C, the integration phase, right, where faith becomes a deeply important part of the journey, and then 4, the fourth stage, which is being more and more. You're weaving all the parts of yourself together into the whole nature of you, that union. And as I've mentioned before, it'll go from symphony to cacophony, but there is an overall positive cumulative effect. All right? So good on you for being awake. And I hope this story deeply touched your heart. Okay? I'm here. I've got your back. Other people have got your back. If you want to be in touch for private sessions, please go ahead and be in touch. In the very end of this video, you'll see how to reach me. And I do work on a sliding scale as requested. See you very soon.